Welcome to Home Based Business Review. I'm your host, Carl Douglas. And what we do, we go around the world to find some of the most inspiring, most gifted marketers that we can find in certain niches. Today, I'm proud to introduce my son. His name is Clip, recording artist. And he has some insights on basically what it takes to become a recording artist in today's world. Good to see you again. I'm in Spokane, Washington. He's in LA, and with the power of internet, we're able to bring you this broadcast. Son, let's talk about what made you want to be a professional artist in today's world, recording artist.
I think I just wanted to have the ability to express myself and have a voice. So you were a singer, I heard a lot of great stories about Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, and the Temptations, having traveled the world and being able to see what Motown records look like. I wanted to be a part of that kind of conversation. And like every other young African-American kid at the time, I was inspired by the magic of Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5 and seeing them relive accounts of their entertainment life. It definitely was something that made me feel like it was a part of the American dream, and I wanted to experience through my artistry. So that's what pretty much interested me in becoming an artist.
Oh, okay. One thing I have to say, you definitely had those dreams, but you had something even deeper inside you. You wanted to basically hit your goals, be your own writer. You wanted to be the person who produced his own music. Tell me, what made you decide to go that route?
It wasn't really a decision. It's just when you start out on these innovative tasks or you're a pioneer in any regard, you find yourself doing everything you have to do to learn the basics so that the ropes, and I didn't want to be held behind. I didn't want to be held back by anyone else needing to be behind me or in front of me. So I took it upon myself to, convert different programs so that I could record and be my own engineer. Then I bought the microphone, I got the screens, and I had to learn the difference between interfaces and just I want to say the signal flow of how to create professional sound. So it just naturally came to me that way, just being creative and taking it from one step to the other. I didn't slow myself down in the process of learning, but I think that's the reason why, I went from just being a writer to being the engineer as well as a producer, because I didn't have all that experience up front. I just did everything one step at a time, and it came together well, so I would know whenever an engineer was turning down the decibel beneath what I thought was a good decibel. And I think I have a pretty decent ear for what sounds pretty good, overall in terms of radio acceptance and things like that. But that's how I think I got involved with that, just wanting to be inspired to do the music and not have anything holding me back.
And that's beautiful. Okay, so I noticed when you got in an older age that you had a gift. And I'm one to say, I'm not going to stop you from doing what you believe in and your passions, because nobody stopped me when I was young. But I've learned that you, like I said, you did have a gift. But what really got me involved with you and believing in you is the fact that the songs you were writing were very clean, inspiring. Like I can mention a couple of songs, but I'm going to put some of those songs in right in between here, so people can hear like just a few songs. Yeah, we can do that. And then also in the bottom of here, I'm going to also add where they can go and if they are interested in looking at your songs. So I will do that as well. But right now, let's talk about some of those songs and how they came about. What is the steps for anyone who's listening? What is the steps they need to be aware of before they to get their music out there? Can you tell me about that?
There are many platforms, many different ways and strategies to put your music out. right now as an artist, you can be the gatekeeper. So the old industry has changed from allowing the keys to be relied upon from, the record companies and the industry executives as far as talent research would go and talent development. You really, those things are kind of old school, old nature. I'm pretty sure that the formula still works,
Mhm.
but nowadays, if you really want to get your content out there, you would need to do the basics, find a decent microphone, decide on what kind of interface you want to work with, as well as software program or application for recording. And once you do get the content recorded and you have found a producer, unless you're doing all those things yourself with a MIDI device, you want to take advantage of your intellectual property. So I always recommend you find a way to copyright your material. The Library of Congress and publishing rights and licensing and things like that, that's something you'll become more familiar with as you see more opportunities. But there are several different ways to get your music out there. One would be, you can utilize um, Apple Music, and then find someone who's actually created a partnership with Apple Music to get it spread out throughout the global platform. So you may be using Tidal as a means to gain more streams from all of these different entities or all these other bots, so that you can have your streaming service going on with different lists. And it's a little complex, but at the same time, it's all about who you sign up with. Is it TuneCore? We're doing something with Tidal in specific, and there's different royalty payouts, and you actually will receive a little bit more than what was originally being handed out to us through the streaming royalty option. But they're always working on that, and I did actually just recently learn about a way where you can increase your earnings up to 400% when it comes to stream. So it's a daily battle, it's a daily struggle. But I remember the good old days about 10 years ago where I would see streams and they would equate, like one listen would equate to like 0.00001 cent, and then when those numbers accumulate, you can earn that way. But just following the basic steps, you want to make sure that your publishing is up for grasp and you own that. You want to figure out a way to write yourself, maybe sign yourself to yourself, write your own checks. It's different um, kind of business as opposed to corporate America, but the structure of music itself is very similar in certain ways. And then there's also different paths you can take, which aren't necessarily the same as the corporate structure. But I think overall, um, the model is, as well as the intentions, are the same. You present a product, you market it to the best of your ability, and then you get your return on the investment. So just have a little money saved up, because it will cost to either hire an engineer or have it mixed and mastered. There's just so many different components that go into it, but it depends on your style. Like, for example, Tupac might have come out and said, I don't want for my vocals to be as polished as the next rapper. I want them raw and rough edged. And then you might have a rapper like me who on one particular song wants to display artistry a little bit more organized. And then times where it needs to be raw. It just depends on, how you want your sound to feel, and what your signature sound is if you have one. But
Yeah.
there's so many different ways you can do it.
Tell me, is it very important to protect the music? And you mentioned that there's ways to do that. Let's go over that again. I'm a new artist. I want to protect myself. What can I do?
Right. So you would go on and contact the Library of Congress. You'll fill out a sheet where you can highlight, all the important things. Who is the author? Who did the composition? Who made the arrangement? It just really depends on how you are um, filing your copyright. But
Okay.
intellectual property is key, so you want to make sure that you are protecting whatever you create, and that's just one avenue to do it. A lot of other people back in the day, they would kind of like patent it to themselves. So they would find an envelope, place their material in the envelope, seal it, and then mail it to themselves, and it'll be federally marked with a date on it. And then you just don't open it. So should someone steal your copyright and you want to challenge them for a copyright infringement, if you have that envelope, you can argue, hey, it is, copywritten on a very basic level. A lot of people don't know that, but you could do that, and there's other things that people can do to you as well that you might feel is a violation, but it's totally legal. And one of those is, a person can take 4 seconds of your material and remix it, sample it, what have you, and it's totally cool. Nobody can come and press up on you for copyright infringement if they do have 4 seconds or less. So, there are people out there who are monitoring those things, and there are different programs that can scan that. And they can scan the sound waves and see if anything is being violated. But of course, you want to protect your intellectual property because there are a lot of great artists out there and a lot of, I want to say, opportunists. So you hear about these things all the time. I think one of the greats right now is Cardi B. She's got this Up song, and there's some brothers out here who had a very similar vibe. And when the lyrics are so familiar, and they sound like they have the same concept and arrangement, you can be challenged. If you were someone who was, might be biting somebody's style or swag, or just kind of taking content from them. So I'm not saying that she's doing that, but when those things happen, you will have liked to have copywritten yourself, so you don't run into that kind of issue.
That's good information for those who are interested in and protecting themselves. Here's a good question. What was your biggest breakthrough moment in your life when it comes down to you being an artist? What was, you can say, was like a accomplishment that you will never forget? Maybe performing, recording your first song. Tell me about that.
Well, I mean, I've been on radio and done some pretty impressive shows with impressive people, but I think people will be more drawn to the fact that I was able to do a show with Grammy Award winning artists such as Coolio and Sir Mix-a-Lot. I've also opened up for Warren G. And those are really monumental things for me because I grew up listening to their music and they were very influential over my artistry. But I think one of the biggest things that really hit home for me and made me feel like I had accomplished something was when I was played at the state capitol at 102.3 KSFM. That was pretty big for me because, when you're in a state like California and you do something at the state's capital, that's just something that doesn't go away very easily, especially when they continue to play your record and you're not from Sacramento. So, being played in multiple places, multiple radio stations, and also interning for a radio station, those are all very pivotal moves for me. And I just think it was a progressive step because that ended up turning into opportunities such as TV work and working on pilots and also having creative control over certain segments. But it all started with radio. It all started with me writing something down in the comfort of my home, and we had a bar upstairs, and I wrote this song called Remedial right there at the bar in like 15, 30 minutes. And that was the song that was actually played at the state capitol.
That was big. That was big.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite songs. So I got to tell you, I'm not a rapper lover or whatever. I love a beat. I love a beat, and that particular song had a gimmick to it that was sellable. Anybody, no matter what nationality, whatever, who didn't even speak English, can get into that particular song. Remedial was the title of that song, and it had its own video. I got it.
Trail Mix Productions. He did the music video. He was pretty big. I had Trauma singing or Trauma dancing. And had my little cousin doing some stuff. For the vocals. It was an exciting movement. It was an exciting time.
You know what? that was one of the songs, but the other songs that came out, they were all for me were all hits. Um, you know,
Yeah, Cali Passion didn't get as much
airtime.
um, airtime and love because I didn't really promote it the way I should have. So that was a mistake. Had I had someone with more know-how from industry, they would have. It was. I always saw the song as my secret weapon, but I left it as a secret for too long. But the swag still spread, so everyone does the vocal pitch. Even to this day, whenever they're rapping, they kind of like do this Mariah Carey at the end of their note. Uh, so it's cool, when you're a trendsetter because nobody was really doing that. And I think the only person who had done that before me was Snoop Dogg in like '94,
Mm.
and nobody had done it ever since. But then after I did it, you started to see a trend from about 2011 till
Uh-huh.
now, but no one was doing it. But luckily, I did have it published at an appropriate time. So
Yes, yes. You know what? I got a special guest here that's gonna hop on.
I'm an animal gorilla, baby. My chocolate tastes good like vanilla, baby.
Here's your mother.
Yeah, I know that lady. Hello, mom.
Hello, son. I can hardly see you. You're in the shadow.
Yeah, that's that good lighting. That's that good lighting.
Well, I could not, complete this interview with you, son, unless we had my better part, your better part, here on the call. For uh, we can talk about the different things you've done, like schooling, why it was important for you. You felt it was important to finish your education, but one of the accomplishments I was very proud of that you followed me in my footsteps and going in the Navy.
Yeah, it's really a mixture of you and Pawpaw's footsteps. Pawpaw was in the army as well, my
Mhm.
grandfather. And you being in the Navy, honestly, that never really moved me as an adolescent. It was when a
That's right.
friend, it
It was
was
like
when
me
a,
telling you what to do. That's what it
yeah,
was all.
no, it was when a friend had pitched it to me in a way that
Mhm.
they had me sold on the idea of going in because there were so many benefits and it matched my hustle and it would complement it after I would, complete the 4 years, of enlistment. I could see myself doing bigger things. But yeah, it was hard to follow or do anything under your shadow because you had done some pretty marvelous things when you were in the service. But I think I was drawn to it because of all the benefits, really. And it just seemed like the right move for me. I wasn't ready to go to college, but they would pay for college when I was ready. They were going to give me a sign-in bonus. I was going to travel the world, and I did pretty well. They gave me all of my preferences when it came to permanent duty station as well as
Where
my
did
age
you go?
group.
Being in the Navy, where's some of the places you've seen?
Oh man, I think anytime someone asks that question, people probably are just annoyed to hear the response. Like, you went to all those places. I ain't been nowhere but my hometown.
Oh, oh yeah, tell them about people. The audience want to hear.
But yeah, Perth, Australia, Sasebo, Japan. We did some Guam, lots of Hawaii trips, San Diego. We had
Nice.
changed duty stations, lived in Washington State for a while. Lots of Canada, Alaska. Man, a lot. We went to a
I
lot of
like
places.
I like the fact that
Dubai. Yeah.
you went to Dubai. You were talking so much about it that me and your mom had to go there, and we enjoyed that trip. I tell you. Um, Now, also, I understand when you were in the Navy, you were also following your passion as recording when you were in the service.
Right. Yeah, I did an album. It's like a group album with the homie from Mississippi from the South. At the time, Lil Jon was super hot. So I always knew that you wanted to market yourself effectively. And whatever is hot, you just kind of transcend with that. You want to match the swag of whatever's happening, but still put your spin on it. So, you had E40, T-Pain and Lil Jon. You had um, man, 8 Ball, MJG, everybody who was doing something big from the South, even Swisher House and Paul Wall and all them cats. I was around to actually meet a few of them, but that's just what was happening. It was like an explosive moment for the South, but they shared it with the West. So I figured, why not do something that resembles pretty much the successful model of the industry at the time? And it had a pretty good response. We sold hundreds of CDs to sailors on the boat and a few civilians, and it's still trending. So it's on TikTok, and we're getting streams right now, and every now and then we get a nice decent check. So just based off the streams. So I'm very glad that I put that out there.
Yes, that's beautiful. I always say that the Navy started your accomplishments. Then you went to college. Let's talk about that too.
Right. Well, I mean, what exactly do you want to know about college?
Well,
It's like
let's talk about your degree. I always say a rapper with a degree is not saying
yeah,
that.
it's
Go ahead.
man, it's really becoming more of a common thing. 2 Chainz, he had a 4.0 and he graduated, and he one of the most ratchet yet creative and exquisitely tasted type of dude when it comes to his style. Everybody kind of want to taste whatever he got going on, and I think he has a show right now called something like Most Expensive, something like that. But it's a show where they just find the most expensive everything. So he's acquired a taste for just wealth, but he also had his degree, and J. Cole has his degree. So there's a lot of us out here that have degrees and also are artistic and very, I want to say, expressive when it comes to lyrical abilities. But yeah, I was a communication major, and that's what fit me during the time. So I just set a goal to knock it out, and in the meantime, I interned and received a lot of experience from the industry in terms of working at the radio stations and being a part of the casting teams, if not being selected from a casting team. So I got familiar with that process.
I don't want to conclude our conversation. I want to charm your mom in here, because I know she has some questions and some things she wants to share with some of your audience. So take it away.
Everyone. I wanted to talk about the certificate of registration when we were talking about intellectual properties. Since I write books, I did receive one of my certificates in the mail, and I just kind of wanted to present that a little bit to show this is what you get when you register either your music, your books, or whatever kind of, and this intellectual properties that you're doing. This is your copyright. If you aren't able to get this type of certificate, like Brandon was saying, you can mail yourself a copy of whatever it is, your manuscript. In my case, since I write, I could write my manuscript, put it in an envelope and mail it to myself, seal it, and keep it. The other thing is you do not have to get things copywritten. What helps you when you're getting your intellectual properties or your creation copywritten is the fact that if someone has taken your property, you do have proof, and in a court of law, you would be afforded an opportunity to sue, I think in upwards of like maybe $125,000 or something like that. It's no guarantee, but that is some of the ramifications behind needing your property registered and stuff like that. So I just happened to get this in the mail, and since you were talking about it, I just wanted to kind of mention that some of my other books I haven't received this little certificate, and it could take a little while to get your notices and stuff like that. So I find that's interesting. Another thing that I can identify with Brandon is when you are trying to create and you have all of these entities in the way, it makes it difficult for you to create what you want. I think, and Prince was big with that. That's why he kind of stepped out of those industries and started doing things himself. When you talked about trying to do your music and then maybe wanting to put extra sound, or I'm not sure what you're saying, on beats or whatever, I feel the same way when I'm dealing with publicists or publishers or illustrators when you're trying to get your point across, or it's not a matter of communication. I think sometimes they definitely understand what you want. Is just that in their experience, they have not done it that way and they don't want to deviate. And that limits you on your creativity. And that's frustrating for an artist. And that's why Prince decided, I'm just not going to, I'm not even going to call myself Prince. I'm just going to be a symbol, because he wanted that control over what he created. I'm really impressed by his story, because when he was doing songs and albums, I think people were only, or artists were only putting out one album a year, perhaps. And he had so much music in him, he wanted to put out, an album every month. And they were not allowing him to do that. And so, yeah, when you learn, which speaks to what you were speaking about, Brandon, when you learn your craft, you resist people stopping you from doing you to your fullest, to your maximum abilities. And sometimes when you have to pay someone to go into a studio, it might be a time set or a limit, and you may want to go further than just spending an hour. So then, yes, you have to invest in yourself, invest in your tool, invest in your craft. And if that means buying a new laptop, buy a new laptop. If that means getting a new mic, get a new mic. Just to sharpen and hone in on your skills to do a greater work for yourself. That's what I kind of wanted to say. And I can definitely identify with that. Speed, the way in which people move may not be what you are accustomed to. I can do everything like right now. I want everything done right now. I don't want to wait 6 months to put out one book. And that might be the norm. But to me, I'm like, okay, I can sit down, I can spend my time, I can write my manuscript, and I'm ready to go. And I don't want, challenges to interrupt me, because like, oh, I'll get back to you next week. So yeah. And that's what forced me into doing exactly what you were speaking about, learning all there is to know about how to self-publish a book, because it's very frustrating for artists to have to wait 2 months until somebody gets back to you just to ask them about how to format a page, or rather, put your pages together. I mean, you learned how to do that in first grade, just, start with the beginning, put all your notes away and whatnot. So yeah, I definitely can agree with all of the levels of wanting to learn your craft and do what you can do to your best abilities without having to wait on somebody else
Thank you.
make it happen for you.
Yes, that's really good information for those who are listening. I hope you guys are taking notes. Now go back and rewind this and listen to it, because it can save you time and money. Nobody want to lose money. So experience is going to help you with that. And you have some professionals here that knows what they're talking about. Writing a book or recording, it's the same thing. You're an artist. So it's very important to understand how to protect yourself and what you need to do. Brandon, one of the accomplishments, I want to go back a little bit. You interned at Stevie Wonder's radio station. So you were learning how to understand how to market certain things on the social network. Let's talk about that. What did you learn there?
Yeah, I was a part of the social media team strategies. So what we did was we created an online presence for the radio station, because, Stevie Station had been around for a few decades. And, with Twitter and Instagram pretty much taking over the way that things are being related to youth and the rest of their demographic, they selected some young people who were going to school to help them with that process. And I was one of those lucky few. So what we did was every week we would come up with different hashtags, spread awareness. We were the first, as far as I can recall, we were the first radio station that was really big on promoting the awareness of what was happening with Trayvon Martin at the time. And I know that because I sent the text out literally 2 to 5 seconds after I'd seen it on the news. So, Stevie he's very big on racial injustice. And as you guys know from history, actually, Martin Luther King Day is totally um, honored based upon him recognizing that it was a day that needed to be celebrated by everyone in the U.S. So he put in the legwork for that to be something that we all celebrate. But recognizing that was the spirit of where I was for the radio station, it was all about love for the people. And it wasn't necessarily all about African American people, but I will say that there were a lot of investment toward the soul of the African American unity. And you would see it every year at the Taste of Soul concerts that would usually accumulate about 300,000 people. And when I was present and working there at the station, everybody's social media accounts just shut down. I had this very unusual phone, but I was the only one who had access to the internet. So I was just promoting peaceful content through tweets. And that year there were no fights. There was no violence. The police didn't come. Queen Latifah from, her, Tyrese, and so many other great artists had come to perform. And it was just a really wonderful moment. And I'll never forget that. But I did learn the in and outs from a rhythm. If it's called rhythm and radio promotion, but I learned the in and outs of just being at the station. I initially wanted to be at the record label, learning how they do the radio promotion, but I think I may have picked up some extra tools by actually being at a radio station and learning how you operate that beast, because that is really the heart of the music entertainment. Back then, you really wouldn't hear anything unless you heard it from the radio station. But now, we have YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, all this.
Yes.
But that was the beginning of, I want to say, the social media stage really taking over music. So I was just a part of that strategy for the station.
Wow. You know what? You guys are dropping a lot of nuggets here, mountains of nuggets. I'm sure that they're taking notes.
Internet, I remember at Taste of Soul, we were not even able to get through because internet just wasn't that prevalent as it is right now. You had a lot of people that were on internet and it shut down at the Taste of Soul event.
Yes.
So, we've grown. But yeah. So anyway, shout outs to Tammy Matt and Donna Michi, Stevie Wonder, so many others, Vanessa Bell Calloway. They were instrumental in putting together platforms just like this that will bring attention to artists in their certain genres and whatnot.
I'm going to say thank you to Fay Michelle, which is my wife. Brandon, did you have any lasting final thoughts here?
No, just do whatever it is that you feel you've been born to do. Master your craft, and you should be able to experience heaven on earth. That's what it's all about.
Thank you. All right. So, if you have any questions, make sure that you go ahead and upload those information so we can go ahead and answer those questions next time we interview any one of these professionals. I want to say thank you guys for staying with us and listening to our content. And there's going to be more to come. And this is Carl Douglas for Home Based Business Review saying thank you for sharing your time with us today. But we're going to say bye for now.
Bye.